Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Let's Talk Tech webinar series. It's great to see so many people on the call today from not only the UK, but from all over the globe too. In this session, we'll be going through how we can make open golf your driver for more revenue. We have some fantastic panelists on the call today with Peter and Callum to take us through how they have implemented Golf Genius at their clubs for opens and how it has benefited them. So just a little housekeeping before we begin. I think Zoom normally disables these options. However, please remain on mute with your camera off during the presentation. You'll be able to see a Q&A box at the bottom of the screen within Zoom. Please send us any questions you have throughout the presentation and we'll go through them at the end. Okay, so let's meet the panel. I'll introduce myself first. So I'm Simon Barratt, the UK Sales Manager at Golf Genius. I've been with the company now for just over 6 months and I'm really enjoying my time here. Many of you may know me already as I spent over 22 years in various roles at Club Systems, including account management and sales. So let's introduce everyone else. Jake, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Simon. Everyone, thanks for taking time out of your diaries to join us today to learn a little bit more about Golf Genius for open competitions. As my role of head of sales here in the UK, it's my job to speak to as many of you as possible, really, to share insights on what our current customers are doing to improve their processes and drive revenue through running different types of events at your clubs, and looking forward to discussing it with you all today.
Okay, so that's cheers, Jake. So Peter, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, Peter Rishworth, Secretary Manager at Moortown. I've been here for that's about 15 years now. Came from a corporate background into a private members club. I've been using Golf Genius for just over a decade now, I think, in total.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Peter. Callum, you're up. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. It's good to join. Thank you. Callum Nicoll, Director of Golf and Estates at Fairmont St. I have been here just about 18 months now in this current position. However, I have worked with Golf Genius in many different, or implemented it and worked with it in many different clubs over the past sort of 10 to 12 years as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll jump over to the next slide now. So Jake, do you want to take over and go through the agenda and presentation?
Thanks, Simon. So yeah, again, just to thank Callum and Peter for taking time out of your diaries to join us today as well and be panelists. So in terms of what we're going to run through today, obviously the focus is purely on using Golf Genius for open competitions, the benefits you get from utilizing the product. So we'll introduce the purpose for doing this webinar today. We'll go through a deep dive into an open survey that we submitted earlier this year and go through some of the results of that and how it's recognizing how that is working at Fairmont and at Moortown as well, and the relevance of that study. Improving the experience, so not just for the golfer, but for the organizer as well, how the product is saving time and making things easier whilst obviously elevating the playing experience. And then we'll go into some real sort of case studies and delve into the detail of some of the open events that are being hosted at Moortown and obviously at Fairmont St Andrews. And finally, we'll wrap up with driving a return on investment through technology and open competitions, followed by the Q and answer at the end. So without further ado, just to go through the introduction. Si, if you can just move on a slide, please. So the objectives of the webinar today and what we're trying to give you all some information on. So run through what a good open event looks like. What are some of our customers doing today? Callum and Peter, some of the features they're utilizing today to deliver a good open event, and hopefully some insights and learnings that you can all gather from their events and how they're using the product. Some of the revenue opportunities that come from open competitions, and ultimately how is technology playing a role in making that easier and better for the player and for the administrators. Okay, so just some opening thoughts really, and some insights from Golf Genius and how we look at looking at running open events at your club. So ultimately what we're trying to do, and we'll get some thoughts from Peter and Callum on this now, in terms of utilising Golf Genius to make things a little bit easier. And as a result from that, what can it do for you to maximise the opportunity through running open competitions, whether that be running more open events because the product makes it easier for you to do so, or simply trying to make the whole registration process and the playing opportunity better for the players, to actually generate more revenue through increased playability. Callum, over to you first in terms of running open events. Just some opening thoughts really on the importance of running these types of events at Fairmont St Andrews.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being a resort-based model, it's quite a large part of our overall play. Certainly through the shoulder season and the winter season, although we do a few things through the peak season as well. Hugely important, and I think you touched on it there, both sides, from the administrator point of view and the player's point of view, but making it seamless and easy and inviting for the actual golfer themselves is crucial. Whether that be creating a portal of series of events or individual opens they can sign up for, all the way through until they reach the club on the day of the tournament itself.
Great stuff. And Peter, over to yourself again. Just, I know we're sort of working with you now in quite a lot of detail on different types of events, which we'll look at in a bit more detail shortly. But again, just the sort of importance of running these types of events and the benefit you guys see at Moortown as a club.
Yeah, very much reiterating a lot of what Callum just said there. The simplicity of the use, the communication side of it's fantastic to keep both pre and post event information up to date and recirculating what's coming up at the club, making it smooth, just a lot more professional than what we used to do. A lot more labour intensive and a lot more less professional. It's a lot cleaner, better experience for every golfer.
Good. And I suppose as a result of that, in terms of improving that experience year after year, you probably both see a lot of repeat business when it comes to people that have played previous years coming back year after year, down to, I suppose, the communication tools you've spoken about. Right.
Yeah, I'll add, Jake, if I can add to that. When you talk about retention, we have a large corporate membership here, just 44 corporate members who all include golf days within their membership. So every little thing we can do to add benefits each year for, obviously, retention, and that's the same in any membership model. We use this year quite a lot of detail to help with that and really personalize all the events and things. So the benefits, that's just one of the examples of the benefits that we've introduced this year for it.
Yeah. Just on that, I know we'll speak about this in a little bit more detail shortly, Callum, but on the sort of corporate membership, have you seen good uptake on that? So you say you've got 44 corporate members. Do you see many of them taking out that option of actually running a golf day rather than just hosting the odd tea time?
Yeah, well, we actually have golf days included in the packages, 3 packages included. Golf days of various sizes, but we often find then some, not all, but some will add on an additional golf day through the year, or they'll add to the numbers of the golf day they already have included in that package, if you like. Yeah.
Good. And just before we do move on quickly, Peter, is that something you've seen benefit from above and beyond, I suppose, the sort of typical traditional open competition in terms of running? Not sure it's going to be as many as what Callum's doing, but do you do many sort of corporate days and see a benefit from Golf Genius there as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we definitely don't do the same. I'm sure not the same level as Fairmont do at St Andrews, but we do our fair share in the summer, and definitely as a bolt-on or additional income source as well. It does allow us to upsell extra services and professional nature of what events are done and how they're done.
Great stuff. Let's move on, Si. Okay. So just to talk a little bit in more detail about the open event software package that Golf Genius delivers, before we obviously go into the detail of the type of events that you're both running at your facilities. So I suppose the way we look at utilising Golf Genius to run open competitions, it's what you'd class as, I suppose, an all-in-one solution for running open competitions. So everything from event registration with payments, even before that, starting off utilising what we call our events marketing toolkit to actually take those events and promote them through Golf Hub, which is a new feature we've introduced at the back end of this year, to actually list any open competitions that you have at your club, to be able to list those on a global golf hub where golfers across the UK can very quickly find through that directory any open competitions that are hosted regionally, or on a set date. And the package goes from registration with payment all the way through to obviously managing that tournament. So different formats, providing some of the useful features like live scoring, live leaderboards, posting those scores online and back to the World Handicap system, and providing organisers really with a tool that's going to manage those open competitions from start to finish, whilst making things a little bit easier for the players. And so if you just skip on, we'll go through some of those features now that Golf Genius supplies. So when it comes to running open events, utilising Golf Genius, we've also got an extensive format library. Callum, come to you first of all. I mean, one thing, you mentioned there, you've been utilising the product at different facilities for upwards of 10 years now. Is that something you've sort of found benefit from by being able to run more creative formats and changing it, for different times that you perhaps couldn't do before?
Yeah, 100%. I'm trying to think of a format we haven't been able to do, and nothing's coming to my head. But yeah, I'm talking 5 clubs over the last 10 years. It has been able to run anything that we have put on the golf course or we've created or tried to create. So yeah, full library of format. Sorry, yeah.
Good, Peter. Perhaps you can squander that and tell us a format you've caught us out on, or perhaps not. Hopefully,
don't think so. To be fair, no, I think that probably being a former Ryder Cup course, we quite often get asked to run Ryder Cup style events and multi-day events. We've done it for members competitions and for small visiting parties and things like that. So that's probably about the most complex we've got in mixing up different styles of match play and point scoring and leagues, which has been great to be able to use.
Great stuff. And coming back to the sort of registration process now, when it comes to listing, creating your directory of open competitions, promoting them online on your website and through Golf Hub, utilising registration with payments. I know, Peter, one thing that you have previously used and use now for some of your member tournaments is the integration with BRS. So obviously your primary use right now for registration is directly through Golf Genius. How do you find that registration process? And I suppose a secondary question to that, for the events where you are utilising the BRS integration, I know that's your primary booking method at the club. How do those two different ways work for you?
Yeah, I mean, either works fine, to be fair. BRS I've used for a number of years as just our general tee booking system. So when I first started switching more to Golf Genius integration, and the levels of integrations it developed a good few years ago now became much more simpler to use. Again, no issues with that. The easy transfer for me for open days and for things that we'll move on to, like the Yorkshire Challenge and things, is the cleanness of going straight through Golf Genius, actually taking the booking, taking the payment, and doing it all there in one. It does make it that bit slicker for us in the back of house primarily, I have to say. The golfer maybe doesn't see the same difference that we do, but we definitely benefit greatly from that.
Yeah. And coming on to you, Callum, with regards to the online registration, payments, listing the events, do you find the system makes it easier for you to list those events online first of all, make it easier for players to find it? And in terms of that process for the players, what's the general feedback you get from players with regards to that registration? Does it generally seem to look after itself for you?
Yeah, it does. We're using the online payment link, the online payment portal. We don't use BRS. We have another tee sheet provider. However, we haven't explored the integration into that in great detail yet, but it's something that's coming for us. But even with that doesn't affect the way the event is run or set up. So it's really it'll be a nice thing when it happens. But from a player's point of view, what's nice actually is we mentioned it earlier on retention for certain events, but for open series or open events, having everyone in one place, the master database, utilizing the data that you're collecting is really, obviously that's crucial, because then you can just keep building on that as the events go on, and then it means your marketing efforts for the first few events can receive a big push, and then players will start to fall in naturally and register for more than one at the same time. So it becomes an easier process on both sides. It becomes easier for the player, and then it becomes easier for us on this side as well.
Good. I suppose that sort of comes on to the next step in terms of, the personalized communication, text messaging and email obviously included as part of your subscription with Golf Genius. And we will jump into a little bit more detail on that when we come to looking at both your events in a little bit more detail. But then just some of the more generic features, I suppose, of actually, running the events on the day, things like mobile scoring, TV leaderboards, some of the print materials, posting results online. Anything that stands out to you, Callum, first of all, some of those features that really do stand out that you think do massively enhance the delivery and presentation of the events?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's probably mentioned a little bit later on as well, but we've over the last 18 months, we've really tried to focus on just the small personal touches, just trying to find 1% in everything. And through the journey of the corporate day, if everything is personalized or tailored to that particular company or organization, it does actually make such a huge difference. From everything, from the welcome, all the scorecards, the TV, every touch point that you can find, locker room, you name it. Yeah, it does make a big difference.
Stuff. And Peter, again, just I suppose the same question to you. Is there anything that really stands out as something that you sort of really recognise as a leading feature that's helped you improve the presentation of the events at the club?
It's very much a similar sort of thing to Callum. For years, we've done, over many years in the golf, I suppose, sticking stickers on cards, our own personal cards, trying to make things look unique and clean and slick. And Golf Genius allows you to do that without sort of miscontinuity across the building. So you walk in, you get a TV screen, looks the same as the app, looks the same as the scorecard, it all ties together neatly, and just looks that little bit more professional.
Great stuff. And then just before we move on, one thing we've obviously listed there, our full sort of 24/7 support, utilising our online chat and obviously dedicated account management. Is that something that you've both had experience with? Peter, coming to you first, in terms of the support that you get from Golf Genius, again, is that something that, you think is a positive when using the product?
Yeah, so it's great having your mobile number, Jake. This one. But no, the online support's been fantastic. I think more so in my early years when we're getting used to the system, and getting, like you would with any new piece of software, we all take a bit of time to get used to the nitty gritty, and just being able to punch it into the 24/7 on the bottom right corner of the screen and ask somebody, and somebody answers every hour of the day, to be quite frank, because of the guys in the States, it's very useful
Stuff. And Callum, I suppose it's a little bit different from your side. You've got obviously a large golf operation at Fairmont, large team, so there's oftentimes different people using the product rather than it just being a smaller team. How have you found them in terms of using the product and going through the training that they go through, and then obviously being able to rely on the Golf Genius support when they need to find something they're not sure on?
Yeah, no, good point. We're very lucky. We have a good operations team here, and everyone is trained and knows how to work the system. But as they go on in this environment, in a resort environment, colleagues come in and out quite often. We have seasonal team members as well. So every year there's one or two people at least that are new to the system, and they'll lean on the support quite heavily throughout the day. I mean, because we use the system pretty much every week through the year, through the season, a few times, and any time of the day, any time of the week, it's it's really beneficial for sure.
Great stuff. And just before we move on to the next slide, Simon, I suppose to get a bit of input from yourself, really. You mentioned at the start of the call, you've also been with the company now for coming in and joining Golf Genius this year. How have you found it in terms of working with our customer base now, and some of the features that you think stand out? Is there anything that you'd like to add that does stand out when you've noticed since joining the company?
Yeah, what stands out for me, there's a really good feature on the sign-ups. You can add custom fields to the database for when golfers sign up. So you could ask for allergies, for example, or meal choices when they sign up for an event. So you don't have to then go back to them once they've signed up. So I think that's absolutely fantastic that you're collecting this information or beforehand. So I think that's really good. And also the sponsoring opportunities as well, putting company logos onto leaderboards and sponsors and charity logos on leaderboards as well. I think it's been absolutely fantastic, to be fair. It's so streamlined and so slick, the software. It's done really well.
Thanks, Sam. Getting a theme here for the customization seems to be a popular feature. Carry on, Si. Okay, so just to focus, I suppose, a little bit more now on how you're both actually using the product before jumping into some example events. So I suppose processes. Peter, we mentioned earlier you were utilising BRS as a main booking platform. Also got a very strong integration there for running open competitions as well, if you do utilise that for booking. But I suppose going back to pre-tech and the way you're now using Golf Genius, just a bit of an introduction really into what you were doing before, how you're operating now when you're running your open competitions, not just regarding registration, but, you know, from start to finish. And again, how Golf Genius has perhaps helped ease some of those challenges you might have had before.
Yeah, I mean, the key to all of it really, I suppose, has been able to capture the right information as we've progressed in through CDH and WHS numbers now, and getting handicap information, not having to constantly mail out through Outlook or similar to make contact with the field to say, can you update this, can you update that? We can put a mail shot out to the whole field and they can now just make that change themselves or make us aware of something very simply. So labour time is massively down. The actual creation of the events, previously manually having to input all this detail, having to create the tee times, having to then create labels for scorecards, sticking labels on, manually checking them, passing them through, registration desk not looking quite as slick, score results taking longer to process, live leaderboards, whether you put them straight out there for open days or whether you delay them a bit, that's everyone's choice, it depends on which club you're at. But yeah, all in all, it saves a huge amount of time and a lot of headaches, to be quite frank, from what we used to do.
And just on that, you mentioned there in terms of saving the staff time, going back to a bit more of the feedback, I suppose, from the customers, how do you think the players have reacted, whether it be members, guests, visitors? What's the general reaction when utilising Golf Genius on competition days?
Yeah, they really like it, to be fair. It's fair to say probably five years ago, people were a little less tech happy and downloading apps. Some of our membership is slightly older than some of the more corporate venues maybe, and then they're a little bit adverse to it, but now they've got used to it, and the amount of times people just rock up to the events now knowing they've got the app in hand and just what's the code for this event, taking it off the scorecard, or we've sent it out in advance in most cases as well, so much simpler.
Great stuff. And Callum, again, just to start off the conversation there from the start, really, some of the processes in terms of what you were doing before, how Golf Genius has come in to sort of elevate things for you. And again, just jump straight into some feedback really from you and the team and obviously the customers, how you think they're responding to the product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anyone's listening from a resort environment with a sales and events team, which are generally separated from the golf team on site here, who are a lot of the first point of contact with the actual booker of the corporate day themselves, that person on the other side as well will not be, or quite often not be, as golf savvy, if you like, and understand a lot of the golf jargon. So customizing a lot of the forms and customizing a lot of the information that's required for each event, and it will be different for every event. That's a super easy thing to do. That's a great feature, you know, and it makes it really simple for that person on the other side to understand and not get lost with any golf questions, if that makes sense. Which then obviously feeds right into the tournament software system itself. So on the day, it just becomes seamless. Any changes that are made, and believe me, corporate days, there are always changes up until 20 minutes sometimes before the first tee time goes off. So all of these processes, it just allows it to run just much more efficiently like that. And I say from the start, like literally from the first phone call or first email. Yeah.
Good. Great stuff. Glad to hear it's having a positive impact for you. Okay, so Peter, we'll just focus now on a couple of the events, a couple of case studies really in terms of how Golf Genius is helping across some of your key open competitions that you're running. The first one we're focusing in on is the Yorkshire Challenge. Now you run, more than one of these sort of type of events. I suppose you'd call it a collaborative open, but just tell us a little bit about the Yorkshire Challenge. I know there's the background to the clubs that are obviously involved with it. A little bit about the tournament, and then we can go into a bit of the detail in terms of how Golf Genius is elevating the experience for the players and you as a club.
Yeah, so this is, you say, a collaborative open. It's been running for its 11th year this year, run annually across ourselves, Scanton and Lindrick in Yorkshire as well. We first got Golf Genius involved in the event when, well, probably 9 years ago now, when we had to buy a piece of software that could cope with that level of golfers, and the amount of, it is a round of golf at each venue on all 3 days. So it says they're just shy of 400 golfers. So you've got those spread across 3 courses, all 3 days, playing in 3 different series, playing in an overall Supreme. So it takes a specific kind of software to deal with that. And there was certainly, when we first started doing this, and we did it by hand in year 1, and then thankfully got into Golf Genius by year 2, I believe, and made it a lot cleaner, slicker experience for us as again, not sounding like it's all about the staff here now, but it doesn't half make it easy in the background to manage that style of event with this piece of software. From a golfer's experience, yet again, it's the same sort of theme, isn't it? You can see there from the app that's in front of you on the screen. Everything is clean, branded. The communication with all those golfers is just so much easier. We do things like, on the 3rd day, we reverse the actual tee sheet into reverse score order. So messing around with that amount of golfers at 3 different golf courses cleanly at the end of play, because play completes at around 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, depending on how fast they are that day. And they want to know what time they're playing at the next golf course as quick as possible, so they can decide how many drinks they're having on the Thursday night before the Friday, or how fast they've got to get to if they're at 8 o'clock down in South Yorkshire the next morning or not.
Very good. And just one follow-up question on that. You mentioned there the different formats that are running across the day. So, again, like you touched on there, there's 400 players playing across 3 courses each day. So it's that split field each day. I'm just trying to think how many competitions they're actually running there, because you do a daily leaderboard at each venue, I think. You then do a series leaderboard for all the players that started at Moortown, Ganton or Lindrick each day, and then you do the overall series. So I suppose there's probably close to 10 tournaments in total across those 3 days.
There is, yeah, I would say so. Plus, you're then throwing into the mix nearest the pins as well, which we can also publish really easily through the app as well, which is up to 3 at each venue every day. So without the software, it was and would be an utter headache for us, to be quite frank. And it's, as I say, that the key to that one, I suppose, dealing with all those tournaments and then being able to flip it around within an hour on the Thursday evening, ready for the final day, and get the information straight out to that number of golfers, and without any sort of blips or problems, is a huge improvement from where we were a long time ago with the event, and it just means the event is run professionally and cleanly.
Great stuff. And we just touched on there the emails. I mean, we can talk about that now with the marketing series, but some of the communication tools, I suspect, the email and now and again the text messaging to get that information out to people quickly. We could just see there the start of 92% open rate on the email. So it's obviously something that works well in terms of getting that communication out in front of people as quickly as possible. Great stuff. And then we just moved on to the winter series, and it's something that you launched, something new last year, again in collaboration with Woodley Golf Club. For those that know, it's pretty much just over the road from Moortown. It makes a good little trip if anybody's after a weekend trip in Leeds, that's for sure. So just a bit more information about the winter series. I know that was something that you launched in collaboration, as I say, with Woodley Golf Club. Again, just provide a bit of information on sort of the purpose behind introducing the winter series and some of the features about how you were actually operating that as a small series in collaboration with another club.
Yeah, so obviously, like we all do, we're looking at sort of quieter periods in the year when we can make the most of our golf courses that still cope well in the winter. We pushed out 4 dates, a couple at each venue. Again, ran daily events and an order of merit, so you don't have to play in all 4. You can pick and choose which you play. And then the software allows us to grade your performance in each round, and then we awarded a prize at the end of the winter for the best team over the 4 rounds, or the aggregate score, which again, very simple to do with the software. It also it allowed us, like with everything else to do, I think quite easily, but it went out straight away through the software to all of our previous bookers without any real difficulty at all. So I could contact all of our past summer's open day entries within a few moments, and managed to sell those out pretty quickly as well, just because of that.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And again, just some of the features used there, obviously the online registration. I suppose because you were running the events across both clubs, it just gave players the opportunity to enter, whether they decided to enter the Moortown or All Woodley events. It was all done through one central portal, wasn't it?
Yeah, so there's no chopping and changing, having to change to All Woodley's website to go in and find or book in a slightly different format, or made it very easy.
Great stuff. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for your insights there. Callum, we'll move on to some of the bits that you're doing in a little bit more detail. So again, something slightly similar. I know this is obviously focusing just on events at Fairmont, but again, a winter series. I know you run more than this when it comes to open competitions, but again, just to focus on the winter series that you're running this year and the winter series that you ran last year. Again, give us a little bit of an insight into the type of opens that you're running. And again, a bit of a purpose for doing so, and how Golf Genius is helping facilitate that.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see there, we had 8 opens in 23 and 24, and 7 this winter. The Winter League we did last year through the winter period, November to February. It was 158 players. We capped it at 150, but a couple of extra managed to find their way in there. It proved very popular and clearly very easy to enter and pay for, etc. The event. The Winter League was actually one of the formats that nearly caught us out. Over 2 courses, best 3 scores from 5, must play 1 on each course. So that was a nice format to manage. But yeah, as Anga mentioned, we find that all of the winter opens, pardon me, as you can see from the screen there, are in one portal. So the consistency and the flow through from the golfer, once they play in one, they'll probably enter 3, 4, 5 at a time and actually build their winter schedule all in one place, which has been quite nice to see. And we're already seeing that this year as well.
Great stuff. And I suppose, we touched there on the event directories, like you've touched on. We can see on the screen an example of that directory where players can view the open competitions. They can enter multiple competitions in one go. But in terms of the result of that, entries, I suspect you're getting pretty good numbers. But are you finding that you're getting numbers of people coming and playing in those events and the ancillary spend that comes with it as a result of actually hosting those tournaments if you perhaps weren't running those events through the winter?
No, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, we'll offer some food and beverage attached to an event, but a lot of the time it is additional spend and incremental in the golf shop as well. There's no doubt. I mean, for us, I'll give an example, a standard Wednesday, Thursday through the winter here, hit or miss with the weather, could be 20 or 30 golfers, but we will have 7 to 80 come through and fill the day with an event like this. So it absolutely brings, the average spend up, with incremental spend up across all the areas in the club.
Great stuff. Thanks, Callum. And then just moving on to slightly different type of open competition, I suppose, some of the corporate days. And Peter, you already touched on the fact you're doing a couple of these at the club as well to monetize the Golf Genius and get some of that revenue back. Callum, just a bit of insight into the type of corporate days you're running. I mean, we can see an example on the screen here, the Dundee United Golf Day. We've obviously got an example of the fully custom scorecards that you're using, which look great. Even going as far as highlighting the starting hole there, which we can see highlighted in orange, but your TV display is looking good as well. So again, just a little bit about the days you're running and again, some of the features we've obviously got listed on the screen there, but how they're sort of being rolled out and how the golfers that are playing these days are reacting to that? And furthermore, I suppose, are you finding that the people actually hosting these days are reporting that they're getting a positive experience by using the product as well?
Yeah, 100%. They do love it. I think that says mentions 21 events in this year and 793 players, and that's not including the member events. It's just paid corporate days. So I think what I mentioned earlier, the organisers, it's slick and easy for them on their side as well when they're building the event months in advance. And they love the personalised scorecards. On the back of that scorecard, it's actually printed like your club scorecard would as well, so it's not just plain white. So we've actually had that printed properly in the back, and also the organizer of the event, and I believe Dundee United was one of them. We can send a link to them. They share it with their teams or their database or whoever they want to enter the event. They all then fill it in individually. So it definitely improves the process, as I say, for the organizer themselves. And I know that depending on where I have worked and depending on what facility you are, some might charge an admin fee for the service and some don't. We actually just try and build it in as a benefit to the overall package, and just try and keep using that more and more, because the retention tool is key.
Great stuff. And you mentioned there you're actually utilising, creating the event as a portal and actually utilising the online registration as well for the organizer to share that directly. Peter, when you do yours, do you do something similar, or do you actually just use the sort of the more old-fashioned way? Obviously, we've got the facility in Golf Genius to just upload the player roster once you've been sent that by the organizer. Which sort of option are you going down when hosting?
Yeah, we're more down that traditional sort of angle, I guess. We have a lot of corporate events at the club that come with event organisers built in, and they have, and often in some cases they use Golf Genius themselves and have their own software. But those, you quite often get golf days where they've got somebody in the office that maybe not be a golfer, may not be au fait at how a golf day runs, but they just get it thrown on the desk and say, right, we want a golf day for 40 people. Can you go to Moortown and sort it out? And that's the case where we tend to upsell it, and we want to, Annie in the office or myself, we get involved and help upload their data and then provide the software to them for a small fee, as you say, helps cover some of the licensing fee, and helps the organisers love it particularly when they've not got the experience as well. It really makes their life a lot simpler.
Great stuff. Thanks, Peter, and thanks, Callum. Seems like you're both down the road of making it a little bit easier for the organizer there. So we're just going to talk a little bit now about driving a return. We'll focus on, as I say, some of the statistics that came from the Open Event survey. We had a very good response to this, not just from Golf Genius customers, but people not currently using the product, to find out a little bit more about, the importance of running open events. Interesting that you've both referenced, the ability to, introduce people to the club, get that retention of people coming back. In terms of some of the numbers that you can see on the screen right now, in terms of the number of opens they're running each day, obviously running quite a few of them. Field size, Peter, you've already referenced the Yorkshire Challenge, which is obviously far higher than that in terms of the number of people playing. But I suspect one of the big things is, from running an open event, the revenue that is available by doing that. And just by looking at that in terms of running open events, is there any advice that Callum, from your side, first of all, any advice you could give other clubs that are currently using the product, in terms of how they could possibly enhance the open event experience at their club?
Yeah, make it as simple and as easy as possible for the customer. It's got to look professional. You can gather information on the forms that you build for at time of entry. Use that for when then the golfers actually reach, whether it's the golf shop or the restaurant. Just build data from it and use the data as time moves on.
Stuff. And Peter, from your side again, any sort of one piece of advice that you could offer people, in terms of running a better open and how they can potentially generate more revenue through them?
Yeah, it's the continuity, isn't it? The people getting familiarity with what you're doing, repeating what you're doing, the speed at which you can process, advertise next year's events, next year's series of events, and if they're ready to go and booked early, then you know you've got that level of income secured quickly. If it goes on for a few weeks after the event and you've not re-advertised it, sometimes they're not as popular. But if you strike like the Yorkshire Challenge, you try and strike pretty much within a couple of weeks of the last event finishing. And the rebook rate is very quick because we've got the data there. We've got the speed of recreating the event very fast for the following year. So.
Yeah. Interesting, Peter. I mean, I remember, this year you got next year's Yorkshire Challenge opened up pretty quickly, and I think you got quite a large share of people that played in last year's event almost on a pre-sale, sort of giving them exclusivity to book for the following year. Do you know what sort of numbers you got back registered for next year just off the back of sending out that communication through Golf Genius?
We literally within a week we had 60% of the following year's full, and we're generally. You always have a little bit of sort of 10% at the back end of the field to fill that tends to fill by Christmas, but I suspect we'll be done within the next week or two at the rate we're going now. So it's already pre-banked money for the 3 clubs, and we can plan around that now, and that's September, hopefully nearly taken care of.
Great stuff. So for everybody on the call, you can see the full open event survey results and some snippets there from some of our customers on improving the open event experience by visiting the link on the screen or scanning that QR code. Just for you all, rather than rushing to your screen and trying to scan that very quickly now, the session is being recorded and will be shared with you all for future reference. So coming to a return on investment, so we do have an ROI calculator, and we've got episode 5 coming up in December, where we will focus on the return on investment that Golf Genius provides and a tool that we have created, which is our calculator, which looks at a number of things. We look at the return on investment in terms of how the typical golf club using Golf Genius increases revenue through entry, also through sponsorship opportunities, and obviously the time-saving element. So without going into any numbers here with both of you, I suppose just a bit of a return on investment, whether it be time-saving elements, what you think the biggest payback has been from using Golf Genius, Callum, at Fairmont?
A bit of both for us, I'll be honest. With a number of events that we run through the system, and like I've touched on a couple of times already, because you're having a couple of touch points from the organizer to the events team or the sales team. That's, I know it's hard to quantify exactly, but for sure on that side. I mean, our winter series last year was over 20,000 for us in the winter season, which was massive. So clearly good returns.
Good. And Peter, I suppose just coming to you, you've already mentioned, I suppose, that the benefit to the staff from a time-saving perspective, but again, just a little bit the snippet really as to how you found the product has helped from a return on investment, really.
Yeah, I mean, as not to repeat myself, but as a smaller group of workforce, it is definitely a huge time saver. So there's the financial elements there are great, but then the ability to, as I said, touching on Winter Series, ad hoc events that we might actually create an open day if we find we've got a weak month coming up, and being able to access and quickly communicate with a decent database of people that we can say, right, we've got this event coming up, or we'll do a Thursday afternoon in the summer. If we see a Thursday afternoons week, we'll do 2 hours of open day and just push something out to them really quickly and top up a month that might have been looking a little bit weak.
So thank you both for your feedback there. And that really summarises today's presentation. We have had a couple of questions come in on the Q&A. So one of them was actually a piece of advice, but I've already put that one to both of you. Another one to both of you, if you're putting yourselves into the shoes of a club looking at potentially taking out a new piece of software, whether that be Golf Genius or something else, what process would you follow as good practice when introducing new software? So Callum, I suppose going to you first, when you're looking at new software, what sort of process do you go through at the club?
Well, the first thing I'm looking at here at the moment is integration.
Okay.
Because I've gone through a few software projects, and the integration it really does simplify and make things more efficient, with so many different options out there that do different things. Obviously we looked at a T-sheet software we implemented this year that had to talk to Golf Genius, which is going to help us massively, and I think you mentioned it earlier, but that's the first thing at the moment I would look at, integration now, because all the softwares are cloud-based and everything talks to each other. It just makes things much more easy and future-proof.
Very good. And Peter, again, just the same question to you really, when you're looking at different software that you use at the club, any piece of advice you can offer to other people looking at introducing new software, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, I try to keep things as simple as I can, but then in the same breath, I do use 2 or 3 different software providers for different areas of the club, because integration, like Callum said, is key. So member experience to visitor experience to corporate experience, open days experience, making sure they're talking, but also making sure I'm making it clear and easy to use. Hence, we've touched on BRS before. I've been an advocate of that for quite some time because of the simplicity of booking tee times is great for our membership side of things. But then extracting, integrating handicap details, stuff like that, it can't overemphasize the amount of slickness and cleanness and time saving you can do by making sure you've got the right stuff in there.
Great stuff. And then just one final question that came in. How do you manage open competitions with member guest playing Golf Genius? So I'm not sure either of you do, but when you're running open competitions, do you have different rates? If it is a member guest, or it may be purely that you don't even allow members to play in your open competitions. But I'll put that question firstly to you, Callum.
Yeah, we haven't done so much of that here with a small membership base. It's not something we've explored or has come up here, but in past clubs we have actually, out in Dubai, a lot of the clubs out there, the model is quite common for a lot of members to play in opens, so it is mixed. We probably will do that next year as well, actually, and have a visitor or a guest fee, but then a member fee as well. And you can have that set up as an option in the entry portal as well. In the software, to make it simple.
Yeah, you certainly can. And again, Peter, I'm not sure it's something you do, but yeah, I suppose just for awareness for everybody on the call, there are there is the flexibility to have various payment options, whether it be member guests, member, or guest and plus another guest. But Peter, if it is something you do, feel free to add some insight there.
No, I'd have to say I know the features there, but for a totally different reason, we took a view a few years back that if they were playing in a competition at the club, it was only fair they paid the same fee as other people. So it's just a flat fee at the club.
Great stuff. Thanks, Peter. That's everything from a question. So Simon, I'll hand over to you. But before I do so, again, just to thank Callum and Peter for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us, sharing some insights and some feedback with other people looking to potentially improve what they do with open competitions at their club. So Simon, over to you to close things off.
Yeah, thanks again, Peter and Callum, for coming onto the webinar today. And thanks for everyone else that's come onto it as well. I hope it was useful to everyone. We'll be sending out the recording of the webinar shortly, so please keep your eye out for this. You can find previous webinars on our YouTube channel. So if you search for Golf Genius International, you should be able to find them. We have 2 episodes left of this webinar series, which is episode 4 that you can see on the screen, the Indoor Golf League, which is on the 19th of November. And you can scan the QR code there to access the registration. And we also have episode 5, a blueprints for assessing your software cost of ownership. And that's on the 5th of December. A special thank you again to our panelists, Peter and Callum. And thank you for everyone for taking the time to watch this webinar. Speak to you all soon. Thank you very much.